There's a lot of interest in beekeeping, and I get asked all the time by people who have thought about it or think it might be fun but have no idea where to start. And they ask that question: how do I get started into beekeeping? And so I put together a 5-step guide to getting started. So if you've been interested in becoming a beekeeper and maybe you've put it off or you don't know where to start and you want to start this spring, this video is for you. We're going to go through 5 steps to get you started. Now, it doesn't mean by the end of the video you'll be ready to be a beekeeper, but you'll have direction, where to go, what you need to do to get started. The first step is to learn. Now, that might seem obvious, but there's some key factors there. There is so much that could be learned about beekeeping. I've got a bookshelf full of books on beekeeping, and it is not even full. I could fill this shelf 10 times over. You could get a PhD in beekeeping, but obviously every backyard beekeeper can't and won't and wouldn't be a beekeeper if they had to go through all of that first. So in my 5 steps, the first step is to learn. What do I mean? I mean to learn the foundations. The foundations you need to know to get started, to keep your bees healthy, and then you continue to learn along the way, which is an important part of learning. How to learn. There are some books that I actually have a printable guide for these 5 steps I will share with you at the end of this video. And I identify some books there that will be good to learn. You can find beekeeping classes or courses in your area, which are great, especially if they afford hands-on experience. And I also have a complete beginner's course that, again, I'll give you information about at the end of this video that really focuses on those foundational beekeeping principles you need to know about equipment, the basics about the different types of bees, things about feeding bees, doing hive inspections, really the foundations you need, and once you have, you can jump into beekeeping. Just as there's a risk of trying to learn too much, meaning trying to learn everything before you get started, which means you'll never get started, there's also a risk of jumping in without knowing those foundations, and that often leads to people losing their bees and honestly getting out of beekeeping after just a year or so. So you want to learn those foundations so you can keep your bees alive and you can get through one season and then the next season, and that second and third year you really start deepening your learning and maybe expanding the number of colonies you have. So learning the foundations is step 1 to getting started in beekeeping. Step 2 is similar. Step 2 is to join a club or find a mentor. Finding a mentor actually is very highly recommended. I find that it's very difficult. And the reason for that is that a lot of beekeepers are doing this as a hobby. Maybe they squeeze in taking care of their bees on weekends because they have a full-time job. And it's hard for them to then take on another person to teach them. So if you can find a mentor, that's incredible, that's great, and that's encouraged, but it's difficult to do. So secondary to finding a mentor would be to join a bee club. You can get many of the same benefits, maybe with less hands-on as you would from a mentor, but joining a bee club, you might not even know they exist in your area, but I'm guessing they do. Beekeeping is kind of a little bit of a hidden secret society that once you join, you find out, you might even know people that are beekeepers and you didn't know they kept bees, or there are more people in your area or groups that get together once a month to meet at a bee club. So once you get into this and you start looking, you're likely to find there's a bee club in your area. You can look on Facebook, you can call your local extension office and see. And the bee clubs offer both learning, but more than learning, they offer direct connections between people that in your area can give you local advice. They can tell you where you can get equipment in your area. They can tell you how and where to buy bees in your area. And so these connections at bee clubs are very valuable, not for the learning like step 1. They're good for that too, but mostly for the personal connections, people you can ask questions to, a resource for where to get bees and equipment. And the knowledge they have, not just learning the basics of beekeeping, but how to do it in your area is very valuable. So the second step to becoming a beekeeper this spring is to look in your area, search around online, call your extension office, and find a local beekeeping club that you can join. The third step to becoming a beekeeper this spring would be to find a location to keep your bees. There's a few variables that you need to consider when looking for a place. The best place, and many people keep them right in their backyard. So to do that, you need to make sure that you have access to this area you're picking, meaning sometimes you're carrying heavy beekeeping equipment, supers full of honey. And so being able to drive a vehicle back there is best. I have had bee yards where I've had to use like a hand cart or a dolly to go, and it worked, but it's not as convenient. But you definitely need to be thinking about access to this location. The location needs to also be free from risk of being knocked over by animals if you live on a farm and you have cattle, free from the risk of flooding. And you need to also find a place that's safe. Safe is different than free from risk. Safe is for the people around, safe from your neighbors, safe from kids. And if you have that place in your own property or yard, that is great. If you don't, you will be surprised to find how many people near you would be open to having bees on their property. I get asked all the time, and when I first started, I took up several of these options, and now I have a place to put them where I don't have to travel around to other people's properties, which is more convenient. But if you don't have that place on your own property, if you start asking around, you will likely find multiple people that would be willing to have your bees on their property. You, of course, have to work that out with them and make sure that you're not putting yourself at risk there. But a lot of people, especially people that maybe have fruit trees and things like that, don't want to keep bees themselves, but would love to have the bees there, will be open to you putting your hives there. Oftentimes we give these people what we call honey rent. So maybe you'll give them a pint or two of honey for each colony you have there for that season. Also keeping them happy with you, working with you, but then they get to see a little bit of the benefits of what's happening with those bees on their property. So the third step to becoming a beekeeper is finding a location for those bees. Again, the guide I'll share at the end has checklists. You can kind of brainstorm different areas you might put your bees and see how many of those items. Some I mentioned, and there's a few more to find the best location for your bees. The fourth step to becoming a beekeeper this spring is actually ordering bees. And you might say, well, I don't even have any equipment to put them in. That comes next. But the reason you need to put buying bees kind of a higher priority is because even though you might not start beekeeping until spring, late winter is actually the best time to start figuring out and finding where you're going to buy your bees. A lot of places will start selling them right after the new year and taking orders. You wouldn't pick them up then, but taking orders in late winter for pickup in spring. So that's something to consider. There's four main ways you can get started in bees. The most common is buying a package of bees. It's literally 3 pounds or about 10,000 bees, one queen in a large ventilated cage. This can even be shipped through the mail. That's why it's one of the most popular. It's honestly probably not the best way to get started. And as you learn, talk to people in your club or join our course, you'll learn that there's a lot of disadvantages to the package of bees other than the convenience and the price. And so that's why a lot of people do choose that. Second is what we call a nuke. It's basically a small colony, usually 5 frames of bees that are in there, happy, laying, they've got honey, they've got eggs, they've got the whole thing going on. They just need to expand to a full-size colony. The trick there is that these can't be shipped. So this is where you're looking for somebody in your local area. Great way to start bees, but you do need to have a local source. You could buy an entire established colony. That's a little challenging to start because you're not growing and learning as the bees are growing in size of the colony. You're jumping right in, so that's a little harder. The fourth way is actually the cheapest, but the most variable, and that is actually catching a swarm, which is a completely different thing we won't get into right now. But you can actually, if you're really starting on a budget, you can try to catch or trap a swarm, or you can, through your club, sometimes get on a swarm call list. So somebody has a swarm, they call the club calls you and says, hey, you can go get these bees. That's tricky because you might go the whole spring and not get one of those swarms. So there's a little bit of a gamble there, but it is the cheapest way because you can literally get freebies. The fifth step is buying your equipment. And a key to buying your equipment to get started is to know what you need and what you don't need. What you need to get started is your hive to put your bees in. And this includes boxes for the queen to lay brood, to grow the colony, as well as boxes that they will store the honey in. So you need your hive, one hive for each colony of bees you get. You need equipment to inspect your bees. This includes a smoker and a hive tool. And the last thing that is a must-have is your protective gear. And this is a big one. This is an important one. And this is one where if you're looking to avoid extra costs, that you need to take some time to consider, and this is where some investment can actually save you. One thing, I work with a lot of brand new beekeepers, and of course, I'm a little biased here because one thing we do is we do have a family bee suit business. And so, of course, I think ours are the best. But I've worked with hundreds and hundreds of brand new beekeepers. And from that, and from my experience as when I started beekeeping, there's a few things I can tell you that will, I think, help you in the long run, especially if you're looking to save money and not get over your head in expenses. And that is, a lot of new beekeepers are a little nervous, understandably, and so they want to get a full suit, a head to toe, what we call a full suit. And there's nothing wrong with that, but a lot of those same beekeepers, by the end of their first season, will realize they're a little more comfortable. The full suit takes a little longer to get on. They maybe want to go pop in the hive for just a quick peek and don't want to spend the time to put on the full suit. So a lot of times they will buy just a jacket, so from the waist up, and wear jeans for their lower layer. And what happens then is, of course, they've bought two different suits, a full suit and a jacket. So one thing I recommend to brand new beekeepers is to get a jacket and pants. And that gives you full protection and peace of mind when you're getting started and you want to be covered head to toe. But it also gives you the advantage of, if you're doing a quick inspection, or in the spring when the bees are happy, or you're getting really comfortable, you want just the jacket and jeans, you can wear that. But you still have those pants. And the advantage of that is, there are times in the fall when the bees might be a little cranky, or you're pulling honey and they're getting a little agitated with you, that you want, again, to go back to the pants and jacket. So what I call the combo, jacket and pants combo, really gives you the benefit of having both a jacket and full coverage. So that's why I do recommend that. A little more probably than just getting the suit, but together it gives you a lot more versatile options going into your bees. Also, with that said, I strongly recommend not doing what a lot of beekeepers do, especially trying to save money, and buy a cheap canvas, especially off Amazon or something like that, bee suit. You will not want that long term. It is hot, and the bees can actually sting through that canvas. So spend a little investment and get a ventilated suit. It's much cooler. You'll be more protected. And I strongly recommend, of course, our bee suits at Comfort Pro. And I'll give you some information at the end of this video. I'm going to have a link to all the resources I've told you about, and we'll link you to that. We give a great discount on our bee suits for brand new beekeepers. We call our NEWBEE combo, which is that jacket, pants, and gloves combo. And the thing we like to do is, that course I mentioned in the beginning, we include that course with our NEWBEE combo, because we want you to not just get into beekeeping, we want you to stay in beekeeping. And a lot of people do only stay in for a year or two because they haven't gotten those foundations. So we combine our NEWBEE combo. It's very discounted, and it includes that course for free if you choose to add that to your orders. So I mentioned the resources. We've got information about how to get our course for free, the free printable 5-step guide, and other resources that we want to share with you to help you get started this year in beekeeping instead of putting it off or delaying, and because you don't know where to begin. So to get these resources, you can find the link in the description, or you can go to comfortprosuits.com/start, because we want to help you get your start. And and hope that this start is the start of what I call your beekeeping journey. It is very amazing to see how people might start with one backyard hive and in 5 years they've got 100. Or they started beekeeping and we've got people that we know that have brought this into a classroom, and they'll actually have a beehive on their school class, their school grounds, and share with the students. And so there's so many different ways your beekeeping journey can take you. So we hope that you'll let us be a part of that. And again, if you go to comfortprosuits.com/start, you'll get those resources that'll help you further. But I hope this video helps you, and definitely our printable guide in getting you started and giving you direction so you know where to go from here and how to take those steps to get started. Thank you very much, and happy beekeeping. This video brought to you by Comfort Pro Suits. If you're looking for a lightweight, breathable, comfortable, protective bee suit, check out Comfort Pro Suits. Family owned and operated, and striving to keep you comfortable in the bee yard.